All right.
Hello, family.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you for subscribing to hear us out. Today we're going to talk about
And thank you for coming back and
yeah
for tuning into another episode.
yeah to
This episode
and,
is a subject that I am very excited about,
mm-hmm.
and it's about culture,
Yes,
the
yes.
the things that create
Mm-hmm.
culture, and the things that culture ends up creating.
Okay, give us some context
Well,
of why we're talking about culture.
hmm, what's the best way that I can say this?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me,
Hmm.
you know, I'm well the recent police shootings,
Yeah.
right? Um, it has taken a toll on me for a few days,
Hmm.
and
As it should.
as it should, yes. And this idea of police culture, you
Hmm.
know, really came into play for me. And there was a moment where I couldn't, I guess, get the clarity that I needed because I was so distraught and
Hmm.
so angry because I just want the killings to just stop, right?
Yeah.
And you immediately go to like, well, just stop and those type of things. But then, you have to, you, it's always good to take a step back.
Mm.
And so I think this is what this conversation now is going to lend itself to because much of the discussion has been, you know, what do we do about police brutality? What do we do about police shootings and murders,
Yeah.
things of that nature? And we're always looking to stop the act. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Versus, looking at the thing that actually,
The overall
yeah, the overall
context.
context of why these things occur. You
Yeah.
understand me? And so that's where this is
Yeah.
coming from. So,
I mean, because I think that if the question is,
mm-hmm,
you know, how do we stop police brutality?
mm-hmm,
Then I think the simple answer
yeah,
is get rid of the police.
right,
You know, but the real issue is that it's always something else.
right,
You know, I remember saying, the last time we talked about this was that slavery
mm-hmm,
was the issue,
right,
and we got rid of slavery,
mm-hmm,
and yet here we are
right,
again.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Like every time,
mm-hmm,
it's always something else.
right. And I remember a quote, but I'm going to paraphrase Nina Simone here,
Hmm.
where she says, that America's mind
Hasn't changed.
hasn't changed.
Yeah,
And so
slavery was never abolished from
the
America's
mind
mind.
from
Yeah,
America's mind, and for that, this is where this conversation is coming
yeah.
into play because do we want to end police brutality or do we want to end brutality?
Hmm.
Like the police thing is a
It's the institutions
mm-hmm,
upon which these things are cradled.
right,
Society is cradled.
mm-hmm,
They are, I would say, much more easily identifiable
right,
and rectifiable.
yes, mm-hmm,
You know,
mm-hmm,
like I said, if you want to stop police brutality,
mm-hmm,
then you have to stop the police. That's
right,
simple. If you want to stop slavery, then you would just have to
stop,
stop slavery.
right, mm-hmm,
It's simple as that. But you know, these things always find themselves back,
mm-hmm,
in our lives
mm-hmm,
in one way, shape, or form.
right,
You know, and so if the question now is about what do we do to just stop it
mm-hmm, right,
in general,
right,
then that's which I think is a much more pertinent question.
mm-hmm,
because you can attack, the institution
Institutions,
all
right?
the day, but if you can't really change the thing that produces these institutions,
Correct.
then you're always going to be dealing with it in
Right.
one way, shape, or form. So if that's where we are,
Mm-hmm.
then that is a much more, I would say, insidious,
Mm-hmm.
insidious type of, you know,
Work.
work.
Yes.
Again, that's a good way to,
Right.
is that it's not something that can be, it's not something that you can do, but it's something that has to
To
be
be
done.
done. Correct.
And it's something that relies on people
Yes.
to do,
Right.
because no one person can do it.
Right. And this is where
And this is where, like, we get
mm-hmm.
into our conversation
Conversations
about,
about right
culture and
culture.
where it
Mm-hmm.
comes from, and human nature and history and stuff like that.
Right.
So
Let's get to it.
let's get to it. Let's begin by trying to actually define
Mm-hmm.
culture.
Okay.
And we have this old English dictionary here, American Heritage, Second College Edition, whatever.
Right.
And there are four definitions. Well, four,
Entries
yeah.
into
There
for
are many more definitions in
right.
here, but there are four that really actually pertain to human nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and before we talk about anything, let's just try to go down this list,
Mm-hmm.
right? And let's start with number two,
Yeah.
because number one, the first definition for
We're gonna
culture,
come back around to
yeah,
that
we were
one.
going to come back around, and it's the first, it's the umbrella. The
Right.
first definition kind of really encompasses all of
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the other definitions,
Right.
really go into the particulars,
Mm-hmm.
And the second definition for culture here is a style of social and artistic expression peculiar to a society or class.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was a very good way
Mm-hmm.
to get to the launching point of actually recognizing those things that are indicative of our culture as in Black people, and indicative of the culture that we have been trying to rectify and or
Mm-hmm.
challenge in one way, shape, or form,
Form
and that
right.
is white
White
culture.
culture. Right.
So, question one here,
Mm-hmm.
our first question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm going to ask this now.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Listen, where is the prophet?
Mm-hmm.
Where's the prophet in Black culture? Right?
Mm-hmm. What did I say? um.
I kind of reduced it down to, because culture in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about something that it is indicative of you,
Mm-hmm.
right? You and your people.
Mm-hmm.
And your people have to get something from that culture
Mm-hmm.
for it to be your culture.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I define prophet,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question really is,
Mm-hmm.
what is your culture giving to you
Mm-hmm.
that is of some benefit? And I use benefit
Right.
in quotations there.
Answer the question because I need to.
Yeah. And I often say that, well, another way of asking that is, well, what is the cornerstone of
Okay.
Black culture?
Okay.
What is the thing that is most indicative,
Mm-hmm.
most ubiquitous,
Mm-hmm.
or emblematic? I think it's a
Mm-hmm. Okay.
good word.
Yeah.
Is emblematic of Black culture.
And struggle
Yes.
was the answer. Was the answer that we gave. You know, and
The struggle to what?
the struggle to be,
Mm-hmm.
struggle to survive, the struggle to live, the struggle to create, the struggle to just
Well, to
be.
the struggle to exist
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
in their world.
Yes.
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 Because I would say that our culture has been indelibly marred.
Yes, that's it. Yes, I was just about to say that,
I don't,
right?
you know,
I was about to use the word marred.
yeah,
Yes,
I don't,
yes,
because marred seems
yes, yes,
as if something. I'm just saying, like
yes.
as if like it's been scarred
It
in a
has
sense.
been, and that's
I would say that
and
it, it's been changed. Scarred is.
yes. Scar is fine,
I
because it what a scar reveals is healing. It
Mm.
a wound, it heals, and when you heal, it becomes something else, but it's still
Still trying to be what it was.
yeah, but it's still it's you, but it's you now in a different
It's you post, in a
yeah.
sense, post you.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think changed is better. We've been
Okay, change is
changed,
fine. We haven't.
and I think because change kind of entails everything else,
Mm-hmm.
but it also doesn't, place blame. You know,
Okay, keep going.
and that's all I'm saying is that it's less confrontational, at least in my mind. So we've been
Oh, so now's
changed.
the time you want to be least confrontational.
Well, because it's not about trying to place blame or saying
Right, you were just trying to
what
give
they did to us.
us right,
It's
right.
just about
Mm-hmm.
us reacting
Right,
in a sense.
right.
And that we have had to react.
Mm-hmm.
We have had to change
Mm-hmm.
because of what they have done
Yeah.
to
Mm-hmm.
us,
Right.
for what they have brought to
Right.
us, and the contextual basis that they have
Mm-hmm.
been working from, and that we have been working from.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
You know, and I will often say that has been our struggle. Our
Yes.
struggle not to exist in our own minds,
Mm-hmm.
or to do both, to
Mm-hmm.
exist to ourselves and to them as well,
Mm-hmm.
because the struggle here has always been here in America.
Right.
The struggle here has always been about trying to be. I think about Frederick Douglass when he said,
Mm-hmm.
you need to respect me as a man
Man. Right.
wherever I am. I am a
Mm-hmm.
man, and you need to respect me as that.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think that is the struggle. Is
Yes.
trying to get them to respect us,
Right.
recognize us as human beings,
Right.
that you can't just
Lies.
brutalize
Right.
and systemically
Mm-hmm.
disenfranchise
Mm-hmm.
that way. That you need to respect us
Right.
and give us
Right.
the space that we need to
Mm-hmm.
be where we ought to be,
Right.
what we say we should be.
Right.
So that is I think the
Cornerstone.
cornerstone
Mm-hmm.
of of American
Mm-hmm.
black culture really anywhere.
Right.
Is struggling to trying to exist,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in that world, in
Mm-hmm.
that context.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that, well, how is it that black people profit in a sense? And you know
Mm-hmm.
how I defined profit early on. How is it that we profit
Mm-hmm.
from the struggle?
Right. And I said, well, we struggle more. It's a
Yeah.
continue.
If you're asking, what do we get out
Yeah,
of
get
it?
it right.
Yeah.
Right. It's more struggle,
Mm.
and I have to look at the word because when you think of the word struggle,
Mm.
right, it takes on the connotation of a negative,
Mm.
right, and I've now had to look at it as not a negative or positive,
Mm.
but as a rebirthing.
Mm.
Okay, because the struggle always it always produces or brings about something else, and it's a continue.
Does it?
It does, yes.
In what way?
It the way that we struggled, I'll say, during our physical enslavement
Mm.
and the tactics that were used to free ourselves, the myriad of ways that we resisted,
Yeah.
literally running away, literally cutting the heads off of the plantation owner. We are going
Just
to
not doing the work.
we mailed ourselves away, like literally in a box. We're going to mail us.
However we tried.
However, that's what I'm saying. Whatever. And so that brought about something. else, and then that brings about something else. It's been a slow, difficult process. It's been bombarded from all over with all kinds of threats, and we've also been persuaded to do the right thing. It's not this linear, but it's constantly bringing about something else. And I don't necessarily now look at it as a negative the way that I looked at it once before.
Well, I would say that the struggle giving us more struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that,
Yeah.
and that, but I can't say that it's always been that it's something else, or that it there's a progression. I think it's the same question, and that the form that our struggle has taken may have changed, but
Mm-hmm.
we still are struggling to get that respect.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been the same thing. And so,
Mm-hmm.
and to me, just to me,
Mm-hmm. That's fine.
you can see, it's not that things haven't changed or
Mm-hmm.
things don't change,
Right.
but to me, it just hasn't changed in a way that I see as being something else, as a true change.
Right. Well, the something else
Hmm.
that hasn't changed, just the thing that I talked about maybe just a couple of minutes ago,
Hmm.
is the mind.
Yeah.
The mind. And, even King in his letter from a Birmingham jail even talked about how, and I think I mentioned this even in another broadcast, that, you know, it just seems as if my white Christian friends,
Hmm.
because he said it,
Yeah.
being sarcastically, that you're not willing to change your mind. You're not willing to make that kind of move. And because because you are not willing to change your mind, this is why we're in this loop, this kind of loop of fighting for something that in actuality we should not even have to fight for.
Yeah.
The reason why we're fighting for this, fighting for, to be seen as men and women, as human beings,
Hmm.
we're having this fight because you don't want to change how you think. You believe that even seeing us as a man, as a woman, as a human being is going to cause strife for the country, cause strife for you, and that's not what it is. But
Well,
we'll have that.
yeah.
We'll go further along with it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying that's what he
Yeah.
was he was addressing.
Hmm.
And so yes, we've had these changes. It's the form, right?
Yeah.
But not necessarily the function. And
Yeah.
we'll get into the form and
Yeah.
function
Function later on,
later
but
on.
to me, when I think about the things that we get
Mm-hmm.
from the struggle, how we profit from the struggle,
Mm-hmm.
I say that for you there really is no profit. It's just more of itself.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But for me, I said, and what we get is simplicity.
Mm-hmm. I've had to really think about
And in
that.
other terms, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
say this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say this term,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to know that
Right.
people are going to be like, "What in the world is he talking
Right.
about?"
You gonna sit down somewhere.
Yeah, and what? That is the last thing that this gives me. But I'm
Right.
going to say that it gives us peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean when I say that, and what I
Mm-hmm.
mean when I say like simplicity, is that this all started as a struggle against white people. And
Yes.
that's really what it has continued to be,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
against the power. And
Right.
white people are the people who hold the power and
Mm-hmm.
are making sure that it stays the way that it is, that it
Right.
never changes in function.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But, at the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
right, when white people were the slave owners,
Mm-hmm.
right? We looked at that, and then we, like I said, you didn't have to be racist.
Right.
That's what you did. That's how you profited,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy to just see white people and then be like, okay, I know exactly what you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? But as time has gone on,
Mm-hmm.
we have kept that simplistic view
Mm-hmm.
of white people over there, we're over here.
Mm-hmm.
What we need to do in spite of. We need to go through them. We need to
Mm-hmm.
defeat them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Right.
You know, and there is a peace in that.
Mm-hmm.
There is a comfort in knowing who your enemy is,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
In knowing that, all right, if I want anything good
Mm-hmm.
for me and mine, for my family,
Mm-hmm.
then I know exactly who I have to be and what I have to do. And now it's not easy to be those things.
Mm-hmm.
And those things do cause internal strife
Mm-hmm.
and, and physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what you have to do.
Right.
You know the consequences of it.
Right.
It's a very it's a very linear path. And you know all the pitfalls. You
Mm-hmm.
know there's going to be some white dude who doesn't believe like what you doing. Like this black lady getting paid more than me. She didn't go to Harvard. I went to Harvard. She went to she had affirmative
Public
action,
state.
whatever.
Right.
She shouldn't
Right.
be for getting paid. Like,
Right.
and then well, I got better grades than you. Come to find out, I got the whole. I'm actually more qualified. I should be getting paid more.
Right.
Blah blah blah. You shouldn't be here. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Used to dealing with stuff. You know
Mm-hmm.
that's going to come up.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it's not that you want it to come up,
Mm-hmm.
you would much rather it
Not come up. Right.
not be an issue,
Mm-hmm.
but you know how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Right.
how to deal with it, and
Right.
you know what it can do to you.
Right.
You know, it's not that we don't. It's like when you're dealing with someone with a gun,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're scared, right? But you know what that is. You know what that fear is.
Mm-hmm.
Is because if they pull
Danger,
the trigger,
mostly.
yeah, you
That
know that
danger.
danger
Mm-hmm.
is, right? Because you know that they could shoot you,
Mm-hmm. Correct.
right?
Right.
But it's you know the stakes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's at play.
Mm-hmm.
You know what the cost is.
Right.
You know everything that you need.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very simple transaction in your mind. Right? Do this, don't get shot. Do this, do get shot. So you manner yourself accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Now whether you're trying to get shot or trying not to, is a question of who you are individually.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I don't care if you shoot me, I'm gonna keep doing this, or I'm gonna try to curtail myself as to not get shot.
Right.
Right.
You don't even know what to do. You don't walk, breathe, talk, sit.
No,
those type
it's
of.
more of a what's at stake. You know how
Okay.
to play.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
You know when those circumstances arise, what's at stake.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a simplicity to that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a comfort in that, in knowing who your enemy is.
Now I would tell you, and I want you to continue your thought after this, is that when you mentioned simplicity the first go around, right? You remember,
Yeah.
I couldn't grasp
Yeah.
that, right? And then it's crazy. After all of the conversation, I'm like, I know this is going to sound crazy. I said, but then I thought about Amir Cabral,
Mm.
right?
You keep going back to him. Huh?
I keep going back to him for a reason, because he did the thing that I say that I'm trying to get to.
Mm.
And I think that's what you're hinting at as well. Eventually, throughout the conversation, is that the simplicity is that it's all y'all is white. It's white people.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels that way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But for
a while it was.
For a while it was that in the Amir Cabral, like I said, and I mentioned this one time before, and it's in. Look, I don't have to make this up. It's in Resistance and Decolonization. If you need to read it if you haven't. Okay, and he mentions how we're not fighting against the Portuguese, like white people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are resisting against those colonies. He was very specific in his target. He was very focused, so much so in his focus that you had Portuguese.
He was able to move the
He
people.
was able to move the people, you know, to resist along with
Yeah.
him.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about that after our long
Mm-hmm.
conversation, because at first, I completely resisted the
Yeah.
idea that, that it was that. And then I'm like, okay,
Because that's
yes.
what I'm saying is
Mm-hmm.
that it doesn't simplicity doesn't entail easy. I'm not saying that
Right.
it's that it produces an easier way of life. As a matter of fact, it produces much more hardship than I think is actually there.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because to my mind, it's not white people,
Mm-hmm.
right? And really, I don't think there's been the case where it was
Mm-hmm.
white people.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been, it's always been, as far as I'm concerned, this idea
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that your prosperity, your safety has to come at the cost
Mm-hmm.
of someone else's.
Mm-hmm.
That for someone to go forward,
Mm-hmm.
someone has to move back.
Mm-hmm.
And racism, and slavery and police brutality, all of that stuff is the form
Takes.
that
Right.
takes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I said, it's not that these things aren't real,
Right.
but it's if that's all that you're trying to address, then you'll never really get to the point. Then you're
Right.
missing the point.
Right.
You know, and the struggle, no matter how hard it is, it makes it easy for us to miss the point
Mm-hmm.
because you look at that and you create, like I said, a monolith.
Mm-hmm.
You create that one big thing right over there
Mm-hmm.
that you need to topple, that needs to go down. It's like pulling down a statue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You need to take it down,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
But the thing is that all that right there, that monolith isn't real.
Mm-hmm.
You put that there. You created that, and you think that by toppling it,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But that metric won't. It doesn't lead you anywhere. It
Mm-hmm.
only leads to another monolith,
Mm-hmm.
to another big thing in your path that you need to get over, go
Mm-hmm.
under, or take down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you want to get rid of the monolith, right? Like I said, all it takes is a shift in
The
perspective.
right.
And resisting the simplicity that the struggle gives us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when every day is a struggle to survive,
Yes.
it's a struggle to be,
Mm-hmm.
you know, then it becomes it becomes second nature. It's like when like a wild boar in the out on the Serengeti.
Mm-hmm.
When a wild boar sees a lion, then that's it, right? It knows exactly what it has to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right, time for me to go.
Yes, right, right. Stop, go, stop.
Right,
Yes, right.
and that's a very simple metric.
Mm-hmm.
Right, see the lion, run.
Right.
Right, but the thing is that it's more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more complicated than that for us.
Right.
You see the white person who has put themselves in your way. You didn't put them.
That's right.
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 They decided to do this.
Right.
Right. And then you're going to say that, well, I'm putting, no, they chose to do
Right.
this to me.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not seeing what then you are doing to them.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't take the form of, police brutality and stuff like that. So to a lot of us, it just doesn't matter. But
Right.
we're not killing them. So what do you mean what I'm doing to them?
Right.
It's more about how we're going to go about solving
Right.
it. Right. But if our culture
Mm-hmm.
does not give us the tools to actually be able to solve our problems,
Mm-hmm.
right? If our culture always prioritizes form over function and just addressing the racism
Mm-hmm.
and just doing that, but not addressing where it comes from,
Mm-hmm.
if that's always the prerogative, then you'll never ever be able to truly get rid of the monolith.
Right.
because it's always going to be
Be
something
there. Mm-hmm.
else. It's always going to be something else,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I mean by peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it is satisfying to defeat your enemy.
Right.
It's satisfying to it's like if you run a race against a white person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or there's a marathon, and there's the white people, black people. It's satisfying to us when the black person just takes off and beats everybody,
Right.
right? That's satisfying. If you see a boxing match between a white guy and a black guy, you want to see the black guy win,
Right.
because that's just it's
Right.
satisfying.
Right.
Because I beat you,
Right.
I can beat you.
Mm-hmm.
That's more really all this is about.
Right.
I can go into your workplace and I can do better than you.
Mm-hmm.
We know we can.
Right.
They know we can.
Right.
But that's not really the point.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that the system itself is broken.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you're there proving them wrong
Right.
or they're there trying to keep you out.
Right.
It's all broken.
Correct.
And if we can't address that,
Mm-hmm.
if we can't truly address that,
Mm-hmm.
then it's this treadmill.
Right.
We're just going to be on this.
Right.
And I think our culture, the struggle,
Mm-hmm.
it lends itself quite easily toward that mindset
Mm-hmm.
because it's a very, very simple metric.
Right.
And we need to complicate things.
Yes.
We need to focus,
Right.
much like Emil Carter said. We need to focus, to not get caught up in the form, but not to ignore it either.
Yes.
You don't ignore
Right.
racism or police brutality
Right.
because well, that's not it. No,
No.
you address that,
Right.
but it has to come from a place of knowing that.
And you address it by not blaming. Hear me out. It's the type of thing that some of us tend to do, right? When someone is killed by the police, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first thing we want to do is look to blame the victim for his or her own death.
Yeah. What were they doing out there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those type of things. Versus,
And the first thing we do is blame the cop.
Yeah.
You saying what he doing? Why he all hard up trying to kill us?
Right.
And did he actually kill him?
Right. And so it's a
vicious cycle.
It's a vicious cycle. So now if you want to, come out of that,
mm-hmm.
then
you're going to have to address him being out there,
mm-hmm.
the cop being out there,
right,
and the system.
That's right.
That put them.
That's right.
It's
right.
going to take all of that.
Right. The system has you out there protesting the wrong.
Yeah.
Right. And the system has the cop out there protecting the property,
protecting the
right.
You
understand me? And not understanding that the system is flawed.
Yeah, the system has put them as pitting us
against each other. Right.
Right. Is that is not to say that not to try to take away from the fact of what was done.
Right.
What was done to us. That's not what we're trying to say.
Right.
It's moreover that if you get caught up in trying to change the police,
mm-hmm.
trying to stop the police,
right.
then, like I said, it's the momentum of the
mm-hmm.
thing.
Right.
If you get caught up in trying to do that, you're going to be satisfied when that is done, or at least even when it appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And then you know what's coming. Something else.
Something else. Something else.
Right.
It's like what I said with reparations. Right? If the government just gave out reparations,
mm-hmm.
right? Whatever amount.
Right. Whatever.
All black people get $5 million. Period.
Right.
Everybody
whatever.
Get it. Right.
Right.
And then then I guarantee everybody will be paying their taxes then.
Right.
All them tax loopholes, all that's gone.
Yeah, all that's closed. Right.
All that's gone.
Right.
Everybody will be paying taxes then.
Right.
And then we're going to get mad.
Right.
We're going to be like, oh, now that it's us, oh, now all the loopholes, all that's gone now.
Right.
All that's gone now. Or it's going to be gone for us.
Right.
And it still exists for them.
Right.
And we'll be like, see, it's still not fair. Y'all still not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all still, it's like y'all gave us our reparations just to take them right back.
Right. Does that sound familiar?
And then white people will be like, we gave you the money.
Right.
We gave
Gave
you
you the
the money.
money, right?
You still trying to claim
Right,
like you still, blah, 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 and here we go again.
right. Y'all just then it's back to the old tropes. Y'all just lazy. You're not working
Yeah.
hard enough, and
No, y'all just evil.
yeah, right, right,
And it's like, here we go. Here's another
right,
100 years. Here's another 100 years. Going in circles with
right,
this. You
right,
know, it has to be more
right,
than that. And I think
right.
that's kind of pretty much the point
Point
of the entire
higher,
thing of all
right.
this. It has to be more than that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And our black culture, our struggle has to be about more
Mm-hmm.
than just the simplicity of the situation.
Right. And I think that this conversation wants us to look at we have done the simple,
Hmm.
right? We have done that.
We are doing.
And we are still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're getting the kind of results that we say that we don't want, from it. So there has to be a change in the formula.
An approach.
Yes,
Mm.
it has to be a change there.
Yeah.
And so what Cabral
Mm.
did is the thing that I'm going to say universally we have not done.
Mm.
Okay. The thing that we have universally done is the simplistic black, white, those type of things. The thing that, like I said, that kind of approach,
If it ever happens, it happens on small scale. It's never
extremely
like
small.
we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because, it's so, like I said, when you are confronted, it feels like it is the monolith
Mm-hmm.
that is approaching you. So you have to deal with all of them. You understand me?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that, hear me out. We know it's not all,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you know it's not all, it's going to require something of you.
Act like
Right.
Act like you know.
Right. And it is much more difficult to change the function than to change the form, because it requires
Complexity.
complexity. It requires that
Mm-hmm.
of all of us, right?
Requires the control.
Yes. And so when you look at racism, it's this
Mm-hmm.
one blanketed thing, right?
Another easy answer.
And it's lazy.
Yeah.
I mean, even during the height of our enslavement,
Mm-hmm.
they all knew that there are folk who do not fit that definition
Mm-hmm.
of all black people.
Yeah.
We knew that there were white people who didn't fit the definition of
All
white people. We knew this, but yet we decided to work.
We were still the slaves and they were still the masters.
That's right. And so that's the form
Yeah.
that we worked with then,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the form that we continue to work with now. And it's you go first. I keep thinking about that mentality, that you go first. Because it's like you mentioned earlier. We didn't put this monolith.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do this. So why is it that we have to be, the bigger person, or why is it that we have to approach this differently? And I will tell you the reason why we have to approach this differently is because we are the ones who are being affected by it. It's not that they are being affected by it too,
Mm.
right? And if we want to, if we want to change minds, that is going to require much more work from us.
And I
A
would,
shift in perspective
mm.
is going to require much more work.
And it's not a one and done thing. It's something
No,
that you have to keep having
it's
to do.
yes,
And I would also say that, and then, you said, well, why is it us?
right.
Right? Why do we have to be the adults of,
Mm-hmm.
at least that's how I define it.
Yes, yes,
Grow up,
yes.
be an adult.
Right.
But what I would say is that it's a question of, like, what do you want?
What do you want? Right.
You know, you don't have to do anything.
That's right.
Look, if you want to get rid of the police, and then that's
Yeah.
it for
Right
you,
for you. Right.
then you can keep going.
Keep doing what
about
you're
your
doing.
day.
That's right.
And I guarantee, if you do it enough, you do it loud enough, you do it well enough,
Mm-hmm.
you will get rid of the police.
That's right.
You want the right to vote, keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
You'll get it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't want to be a slave anymore, keep doing what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You will be free.
Mm-hmm.
By hook or by crook.
Yes.
But it's about, the shift.
Right.
The shift. And it's like, do you want to not have to deal
That's
with
right.
this
Mm-hmm.
anymore?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to, like, I don't want this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I want something else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if that's the case, which is that's what a lot of people are saying,
Mm-hmm.
is that they don't want to have to deal with this. We're tired. We don't want to do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But we keep doing the things that allow it to exist,
right,
to propagate, to
mm-hmm.
find another way to, confound us.
Mm-hmm.
We keep doing that. If you want to deal with something else, then you're going to have to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
From white people and from black people,
mm-hmm.
for anyone
mm-hmm.
who is tired of this,
right,
who doesn't want to deal with this anymore, mm-hmm. you're going to have to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about, well, they're doing this. Yeah, they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing that. And
mm-hmm.
it does not make it right.
Right.
But it won't justify you feeding into it either.
Correct.
How am I feeding into it? I'm protesting.
The system allows for protest.
Yeah. Who said that that's the way you're supposed to change things?
Right.
The oppressors?
Right.
Right. They're the ones who wrote the Constitution, right?
Right.
The oppressors gave you the right
to protest.
Right. So now we're gonna do that way.
Right.
We're gonna follow that aesthetic. We're gonna go with the white picket fences, with the white signs,
right,
and all that,
right,
out there marching and protesting, doing this way, this violent, non-violent.
Right. Because your oppressors in their constitution say that you have a right.
You
to
have the right to do that,
protest.
so you're gonna go with that. You're gonna. So you're not changing anything.
Right.
You're not changing anything.
Right.
You're using the power that was given to you.
Right. It was built
that
in.
was given to you by your oppressors that they can, as we see, they can easily take away.
Right. Right.
They can easily take away.
Mm-hmm.
They can easily challenge and hinder.
Right.
They can do all that stuff.
Right.
That
mm-hmm.
aesthetic, all of that feeds into this propagation.
Mm-hmm.
That feeds into this continued existence.
Mm-hmm.
You want to actually change things? How about not making a noise at all?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I'm good. Remove yourself from the situation entirely.
Create something else.
Mm-hmm.
Do something else.
Mm-hmm.
But Montgomery bus boycott. You know what? I'm not going to take your bus.
Right.
I'm going to do this.
Right. You saw what happened? When we did that.
It worked.
It worked.
It worked.
Right. And then,
Because that's what I'm saying. Because it wasn't a building.
Right.
It wasn't, it wasn't some building that we had created.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't some community. It wasn't a Rosewood.
Mm-hmm.
It was a mentality of I'm not going that way.
That's right.
I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't matter what you think you take from me.
Right.
The core is the function, it's not the form.
Right.
I'm not doing that. That's the function.
Right.
Everything else, the carpool and all of that, that's just the form.
Right.
So you can try to hinder that as much as you want to. I would walk.
That's right.
I would walk. I'm not taking your bus, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Period, point blank, in a discussion.
Right.
And they're like, all right, fine, you can ride the bus.
Mm-hmm.
You ride, you can say what you want.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, but you went back.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you really didn't have that mind.
Right.
It really wasn't your mentality. Mm-hmm.
That's what I call we have to learn from that.
Yeah.
That's not a placing blame.
No.
That's we have to learn from that. And the thing is now, like, we have been saying, there has to be a shift. It's it's not simply about, you know, changing the institution or getting rid of the police.
Yeah.
You know, the thing is that you want to get rid of that mindset that thinks that
that's what it needs.
That's what it needs.
Or that propagates
Right.
these things. And
mm-hmm.
we've been talking a lot about the changes that we need to make.
Right.
Let's talk about now the changes that we think, you know, the adversary, the opponent. I don't want to say the enemy. I want to say the adversary.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
What do we think is the cornerstone,
mm-hmm.
the prophet?
Right.
What is the cornerstone of white culture?
Well, I said dominance.
Mm-hmm.
It's to dominate.
Yeah.
Right. And I contend that the dominance, you know, the fact that they're able to loot and get, you know, finance, whatever the case may be, is the byproduct. You know, that's how I looked at it. And, you know, we're going to talk it out because, you know, we've had this conversation, you know, we
talked about this
and so it's to dominate. White culture is to dominate. They want to impose their will. They want to dominate every place, everything, every person. They want to dominate. The fact that they can, you know, loot and steal, kidnap, you know, make money, whatever the case may be from that, you know, is lagniappe. I think it's secondary, is that they want to create a world that reflects them and their interest, that reflects them only. They cannot, it's like they can't tolerate the other. They can't tolerate it. And so if you don't look the way that they do, if you do not dress, speak, think.
The Booker T. Washington.
see, you must supposed to say, you know, if you don't do, be, and act just the way that they do, that means that something is wrong with you. And so we're going to crush that. So I see, you know, the cornerstone of white culture as dominance.
And I see the cornerstone of white culture as being profit.
Right.
I think domination is the form. Profit is the function. You know, and that led us, yesterday we were making this outline here, to this question here. And this question kind of came from because the first time I had said simplicity, you were like,
oh yeah, right.
You know, so this question kind of came from, you know, from that conflict. Is do they dominate to profit, or do they profit through domination? Right.
And I'm still, because I feel like those questions are really not the same. You know, because you use. Say the question again.
Do they dominate to profit?
Right, to profit.
Or do they profit through domination?
See, to and through are two different things. Like it takes on.
Yeah, that's the point. I know what I'm just saying. That's the point. They're two separate ideas,
right?
But it's asking, what is the function? Is the function domination, or is the function profit? What do you think is secondary?
I think for me, profit is secondary. I know for you, it's the other way around. You know, it's as if, you know, well, they wouldn't be doing this if they didn't get anything out of it, right? And for me, it's.
But what they get out of it is yeah.
And for me, it's the fact that they do get something out of it is secondary. You know,
That doesn't make
I
sense
know,
to me.
I know.
Mhm.
Because what you say, well, if they didn't get any profit, from it, would they, dominate?
Why?
Well, why would they?
Why are they?
Well, and why are they?
Mhm.
Because they want control. They want reverence. They want, you know,
Profit?
yeah, but the drive for me is not that.
That's the
I
thing.
know, I know, to and through,
And
it's
that doesn't make any sense to me. Would people ever do anything just to do that? There's always something that they're trying to get
arts for
something
art's
out of.
sake. That's that
Well, like
that come
as it's an expression of an ideal.
right.
Yeah.
So that's right. It is an
So
expression.
the art is an expression of art. Art is an expression of the idea that goes into it,
No,
or the idea of
no.
art in
The
itself,
the concept of art for art's sake.
or paint like a painting you just have on the wall.
That concept. It come that's what y'all say.
Yeah, and
Right.
I just
And
said
so
I
and so
just
I'm like,
told you
so
that it's
so
an expression of
dominance
ideas.
so dominance for dominance sake. Why?
No,
It's not. No.
no, that
No.
doesn't
Why?
happen.
Why
Art for
doesn't?
art's sake, people don't just create things to create them. They create things to express an ideal.
Hmm.
You
I'm just
don't
saying.
dominate the dominate. You
I'm saying
dominate
no, no, no. I'm
to
saying
express
the
an ideal of profit that is not indicative of us. It's not how we, at least in that form,
yeah.
in that form.
Hmm.
We've never genocided and stuff like that,
That's right.
but we do dominate.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. Is that is not the prerogative. It's not the main form of our profit. I'm talking about before
Yeah.
slavery and antiquity and stuff
All
like
right.
that. It's not the form of it. But the function is still the same. It's trying to profit.
Okay.
I'm just saying, no people. That's not how humans work. Humans
Mm-hmm.
don't do things
Mm-hmm.
just to do
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's never been the case in
Mm-hmm.
human history. Like I said, when we were talking about yesterday, about why humans propagated the way they did it because they were following the food. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
just leaving.
Right. I got all that.
They were.
But
There's
but
always
you
something.
ask. But you ask. Well, for me, what is the cornerstone for white collar? And I'm like, to dominate,
Well, why are
to
they
dominate.
dominating?
Okay, but that wasn't the question that you asked the
No, but
first time,
that no.
and
The
and
thing,
he's
no.
dealing with
The
us.
thing is, that's why do we struggle? We know why we struggle. I didn't have to ask it,
All right,
right?
right. So it's like, so why do
What's the point of the struggle? Simplicity. That's what I said. What's
and
the
so
point?
for me, and when I say dominance, you like, well, what's the point of dominance? For you, it's what? Profit, right? That's not the point.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I'm fine with
but
that.
profit isn't secondary. It's the point.
The point is profit.
Yeah.
Okay,
Didn't you just say that?
I said yeah.
So you agree with me?
I didn't disagree.
I'm just saying.
No, I didn't disagree because we talked. Remember, I
I
said,
know. I'm just
we
saying is
talked
that
about it, and I said, and I'm actually answering the thing from yesterday
that's what I'm
because
saying.
I had
Like
mentioned the thing dominance.
that domination
Hmm.
is the form. What this really is about is trying to profit,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
Trying to garner glory and reverence and stuff
Hmm.
like that, or in the more tangible terms,
Right.
money,
Right.
right?
Or whatever they deem as currency, because it doesn't necessarily have to be paper. At
Hmm.
one time it was
Yeah, I'm
other
just saying.
things, but yeah. So I'll just
At
say
one time it
currency.
was
Yeah.
reverence
Yeah.
stuff like that,
That's right. It was glory and humanitas and all that other
stuff
stuff.
like
Yeah,
that.
stuff
That's
like
what I'm
that.
saying.
Right.
Is that they do what they do
Hmm.
because they want they want to profit.
Right. So glory is the profit.
To some, yes.
Yes. Okay.
I'm just saying, like it
Right.
varies, but it's profit in itself.
Right.
Whatever that profit is,
Okay.
varies from person to person.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Keep going.
now you make it that face.
Because I'm like, okay, yeah. Right. Okay. I'm just
What?
yes.
Do
I'm
you?
not disagreeing. I'm just like, okay. Okay.
All right. And I said because and yesterday that led to, like I said, this other question that you said in response. Because when I said simplicity, you said simple.
Right.
And I said, because you were like, so I said, we the the point of white culture is profit,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you were like, the profit, what? It's that profit is, like you said, secondary lane. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that the point is dominance.
Right.
The point is dominance. And I
Right.
remember saying that, and you were like, and I was like, no, I disagree. So you're like, oh, so black people struggle to be simple? Is that what you're
Oh
saying?
yeah. Right.
Right? You guys saying that?
Yeah, that's what
And
I'm saying. To be
so
simple.
that's why we struggle,
Right.
right? If they don't, so we just doing this to be simple. So
Simple.
I'm like,
That's.
all right. So the question here is, like I said, do we struggle to be simple,
Mm-hmm.
or is the struggle simplicity?
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, because
Well,
I used the word simple
yeah,
because that was something that was
mm-hmm,
referenced before,
yeah.
and then when you say simplicity, I'm like, I see that's something else.
Well, like I say, because you said
Right.
I didn't say simple.
Okay, I had said simple.
Yeah, like
Okay.
because you as a mark of derision, like
I was like, yeah. So what you trying to say? We're just trying
they
to be
try
simple,
because they profit is not domination, it's profit,
right?
right? So we struggle to be simple.
Simple, right?
Hmm. Yeah, I'm just saying with
No, no, that's not
that
it.
you profit through domination.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So I hate you all know I hate using indefinite pronouns, but
yeah.
so everything that they do, you know, is profit.
Hmm.
It's not.
And the form
The form is
is
dom,
well, yeah,
and the form is
yeah.
dominance.
So it's both in a sense, but it's more about what is causing the other.
Cause and effect.
Yeah, the profit is the pursuit of profit is what's
So,
causing the domination. The domination is what's causing the profit. It feeds back into itself.
okay, okay.
Yeah. So if we need to give up our simplistic struggle, they need to give up their simplistic struggle.
Yeah, and there's a simplistic struggle is profit.
The struggle to profit, yes, to be someone in their view.
Mm,
Right? If ours
okay.
is a struggle of existence, then they exist. Their struggle for existence is profit. That's how you are someone through the accumulation of wealth in whatever form it can take.
Okay, okay, because I was just about to say, all right, fine.
What?
Okay, because say it again. All right, the struggle for them to be someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
They do that by you say by the accumulation
Of wealth,
of wealth,
whatever form that wealth may
right?
take.
And I was going to say that you know that they struggle with the idea of the other.
Well, let me ask you, why do they struggle with the idea of the other?
Because well, I'm gonna go to this, the what is called the aesthetic, the
Mm-hmm.
vanity. It doesn't look like
Vanity is something else.
okay, yeah, it doesn't look like you. So if it doesn't look like you, then that is not you. And if it's not you, that means that you can impose to make it you.
I would say,
Mm-hmm.
in response to that the struggle their struggle lends itself toward vanity, but I don't think it's caused by vanity. I think that it's caused by competition. You don't want to judge yourself on our metric, so you put us on yours, right? For us,
Or against it.
yeah, like
Yeah.
you put us on your metric,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we don't have Gothic architecture or big giant cathedrals. That's not how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
That's not our aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
We have a whole different aesthetic here,
Right. Mm-hmm.
right? An aesthetic that you felt was a challenge, right? You're running this race by yourself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, you
like
created your own problem.
yeah,
Yes.
you put yourself against us,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you felt that you could not compete on our metric.
Mm-hmm.
You could not compete our way, so you forced us to play the game your way,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I often say that we are continuing to play the game that way,
Yeah.
because that's really always been the way the game's been played,
Mm-hmm.
but never in this form.
Right.
But you all didn't want the competition.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to admit that someone could do it better than you,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
And in do it in a way that isn't in opposition to everything that's around them.
Yeah, but you came. But the thing is that, see, this is why we go back to the
That's
shift.
the competition.
Right. That's why we go back to the shift in perspective, because
That's why you recede into ego.
yes, okay,
Mm-hmm.
because when you came onto the continent, and you went to different parts of the continent. Here we have pyramids, and then here we have, our verandas, and here we have our metropolitans, and you came in, you saw that it was like,
And saw it as a challenge
yeah,
to yours.
yeah, not, never mind.
Like I said, it's a race you're running by yourself.
Right,
We didn't make ourselves your opposition.
right,
Right? But
mm-hmm,
you judged yourself comparing. Like you said, we stop
right,
comparing like that.
mm-hmm,
Right? You compared yourself to us
mm-hmm,
by what we had in the most physical of terms.
right.
Right? And because you saw that as a form of competition, you
You,
saw all of
right,
this as a form of competition.
and you
You,
felt that you couldn't compete,
yeah.
right? And so since you,
So you receded into vanity. You
right,
receded to what they on people, they don't
right,
have a history, they don't
right,
blah,
don't
blah,
even,
blah, 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 blah,
right,
blah.
right,
All you went into all that stuff.
right. So you just started lying.
Yeah.
Basically.
You started lying to
Started
yourself.
lying, right?
Right? And it's something we know well.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, is that all of the vanity, all of
Mm-hmm.
that is it's I don't want to say a defense mechanism, but it's not something that a people of power do, or people who are self-assured do.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I agree.
it's something like, because if you're constantly if you're constantly defining yourself by what you have or what you've been able to accumulate, then you're always going to be chasing and or in competition with the things that you don't.
You're never going to have enough anyway.
Yeah,
It's going to always be something
that's
else.
why you're always trying to get more. You're trying to have it, but
Mm-hmm.
because you're defining yourself by what you have,
Mm-hmm.
which means you're always going to be chasing what you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that's where the true power is going to lie,
Mm-hmm.
in the things that you don't.
have, right? Mm-hmm.
Since we are the thing that you don't, that's why you have endeavored to procure us,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
In one sense or another,
Yes, I got you.
right?
Yeah.
But nowadays we are endeavoring to be procured, because we're endeavoring to exist on their metric,
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to create one for ourselves.
Right.
It's a vicious
cycle. Right.
Because we never had something to prove until they said that we did. Right?
Mm-hmm.
We will find what we had.
Right.
But then they're like, y'all not people. Like, yes, we are.
Right.
And now we're trying to prove it to them the only way they know how.
Right.
Instead of being someone to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's keeps going in, keeps going in.
And so,
now we are defining ourselves by the things that we don't have.
Right.
And we're trying to get it, trying to get it.
And this is why I always talk about,
it's that absence again. It's that evil.
Yeah, stepping away.
Mm.
I like to use the word retreat, if people don't understand where I'm going. To step away, to step back. Some people like to use the term, separation, but I think they're looking at that differently.
Yeah. In physical terms. Yeah.
Right. So when you step back, now you can see things a little bit clearer.
You know the word I use for that? Perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Perspective.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that when you're caught up in it, it's
hard to retreat.
It's hard to retreat,
Hard to
and it's definitely much more difficult to
have some perspective.
To have perspective.
Yeah.
So when I say retreat,
Yeah.
you know, or to move away or to separate, you know, now everyone knows how I feel, you know, I'm out of here, whatever the case may be, because I feel like that kind of space is necessary. It's necessary, at least for me, to get things in order. Even though I've been able, even though I've been here gaining my own perspective. But that's the whole. But you talk about that all the time. I got you.
Yeah.
So, and I'm like, no one wants to retreat.
No one wants to admit that they're wrong.
That's right.
No one wants to grow up.
Yes. You know, yes. And so here we are, caught in this
treadmill,
that hamster wheel, the vicious cycle that everyone says that they want to get out of. And yet we keep doing this over and over again.
You want to have your cake and eat it too. You want to beat the white man. The white man wants to oppress you.
Right.
And you think that if you beat them enough, or if we oppress them enough, then we're going to get to what we want.
And here we are.
And that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You're just feeding into that cycle. You know, and I think
so for you, it's profit, and I understand what you're saying. You know, and I'm like, okay.
Like, I won't say that it's just profit. I'll say it's some combination of them both. Yes. Both profit and dominance.
Right. It's just that, you know, how I looked at it.
Yeah.
You know, I looked at it as dominance versus. Well, see, that's my own flaw because it was a first to the second versus it.
I kind of see domination as like an emanation. It's like how the sun, like the light that's on the planet right now isn't the sun. Isn't the sun.
Okay, yeah. Right.
But it's from the sun. And it covers everything.
Right.
And it colors everything.
Correct.
But if you want to see where that light is coming from, you don't address it here.
Right.
You got to see the source.
Right.
Which is, you know, the big semi-permanent explosion.
Right. Right.
You know, so if you want, that's what I'm saying, is that the domination is the emanation. It's the light.
Yes.
Of prophet's sun.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I can remember that.
So, and do we have time to get to another one of these questions?
Yeah, maybe.
Because that was number 2.
Right.
That was number 2. And we could go into number 3. Go into number 3.
Right.
Now the third definition in this book, in this dictionary, is intellectual and artistic activity and the works produced by it.
Oh, we made. You know what? Okay, let's see, because I feel like
we'll stop at like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Right, and we'll just continue the conversation next time.
Okay, let's see, because this was the one right here.
This was the one.
but I think that now that we've cleared things up, it might, you know. Okay,
we slept on it.
Yeah.
Right. So I asked the question. Well, what do Black people produce through our culture, as opposed to what white people produce through theirs?
Right.
You know.
And I said, pick it. You know, what haven't we created? You know, practically every genre of music. You know, architecture, art, fashion, you name it. We have literally lawnmower, chair, folded chair, golf tee, you name it.
Traffic light,
gas, whatever. You name it. We created it. You know, so yes.
And to me,
right?
and I said this, and I was like, well, if that's what we create, right? What is it that they produce from their culture?
And I said it's like I use the example, like we created rap, hip hop, right? They created the music industry, what I say, like the industry, the business of, what else did I say? They take and I remember I think I used the word take.
Yeah.
They take our creations
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna say industrialize it. You know, the outlines, the curriculum. You know, like they don't create philosophy, right? This is hear me out.
Mm-hmm.
They don't create philosophy. They create the
They
curriculum.
categorize
They
it.
categorize it. They do those type of things because that's a way to control it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you like, we create hip hop. It's the street. It's a myriad of all
Mm-hmm.
of our experience, whatever. They create the industry or the
In which it houses.
in which house is. So now hip hop is this. They try to come up with these you know
And
the
that's what I said
definitions and
yesterday, is
right,
that black people create the aesthetic,
right, mm-hmm,
whereas white people create the function.
right.
And I remember that being a very, very contentious word.
Right.
You know, went back and forth, me, you, and
Because initially how I thought about it is that if you when you say function, I'm like there's like they create the need for it. Like function, like there's a need.
mm,
Like they create the need for it. And I'm like, I don't
no,
that's
yeah,
that's why I initially
yeah.
responded the way that I did because
By
I'm like,
by function, I
mm-hmm,
mean they create the thing that it serves. Rap music now is in service of something.
mm-hmm,
They gave that function, right? It was just a thing that we did, a thing
mm-hmm,
that we did because of who we were and the struggle in itself.
mm-hmm, right,
That other
right,
conversation we
mm-hmm,
had.
right,
You know, everything we were just talking about. That's where it all really came from.
mm-hmm,
But they transitioned that, like I said, into an industry.
mm-hmm,
They took that to this already existing apparatus that they had, and they just married the two, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
That's what I mean. Is that,
mm-hmm.
or even if they did, a black rap CEO conducts business pretty much the same way that
Yeah,
a white. That's what
yeah,
I'm saying.
right,
Is that
right,
function,
mm-hmm,
function, right? It's like what I said about Africa.
mm-hmm,
You look at Africa today, right? I
right,
said by hook or by crook, whether they were kicked out or they gave it back, whatever.
right,
Black people, African people,
mm-hmm,
are now in control of Africa.
right,
They're the ones who are holding the positions of power or holding the office.
mm-hmm,
Yet they are running it like a failed European state.
right.
Every
That's
last
one of them.
African country.
Right,
Why is that?
right,
Why is that?
mm-hmm,
And that's what I'm saying is that they created the function.
mm-hmm,
See, you got rid of them, but you kept the office. You
right,
got rid of them, but you kept the borders that they created.
right. You
You
got rid of
kept
them, and your mind didn't shift.
your mind and shit. That's what
Right,
I'm saying. Is that
mm-hmm,
so now it doesn't matter what you do. You're still servicing
right,
in service of
correct.
that power structure,
Mm-hmm,
that system, the
mm-hmm,
system, that aesthetic that
right,
that they created.
mm-hmm,
You know, and when you look at the protests now, we are challenging the one thing we do control,
mm-hmm,
the aesthetic,
right,
right? We'll tear down your statues.
right.
We go on
We're
that
renaming
field,
streets.
grave the
We're
streets,
doing the murals.
we doing this and that
Right.
because we don't have an industry
Mm-hmm,
that we can use to challenge us. We don't have that.
mm-hmm,
But the one thing we are in control of is how white people feel about their everyday lives. As
mm-hmm,
long as you get to go to your white suburban neighborhoods
mm-hmm,
and we're over here, everything's fine. But
mm-hmm.
now we going into your white neighborhoods, we going to protest, and you outside with your gun and stuff,
Right.
thinking you look hard, bro. No, you
No.
don't.
Right.
You see,
You see.
you don't have no power.
Right.
You don't have no power.
Right.
You out here holding your gun like a bottle of Windex,
Right.
thinking that you.
Right.
That's not that. Like I said, that's not a thing that the people of power do.
Right.
People of power don't threaten people around with guns. And go, oh,
Right.
We got to protect that. See, bro.
Right.
You're responding.
Right.
You're responding.
Mm-hmm.
You've already given up.
Right.
That's the one thing we have control of.
Mm-hmm.
Is we can challenge your aesthetic because you only get to have that because we give it to you.
That's right.
We can march in your communities anytime we want to.
Mm-hmm.
We can protest and riot anytime we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime we want to, because that's what we have.
Mm-hmm.
We have the thing that we give, that the aesthetic, the
Right.
look of it. Whereas you all, are in control of the thing that aesthetic serves.
Right.
The mindset that feeds into.
Right.
So we are challenging the aesthetic to try to challenge your mindset.
Right.
But it doesn't go like that.
Because
as long as
right.
as long as it's housed in that mindset,
right.
you can change the aesthetic as much as you want.
Mm-hmm.
The mindset will be what it is
because the aesthetic has changed, right?
Yeah, it has changed.
Look at how we have presented ourselves.
Yeah.
I mean,
we ain't slaves no more.
Right, and we've straightened the hair. We've
had a black president.
Right, we've literally we've physically changed our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And
here we are.
Here we are. So now we're pulling back.
Mm-hmm.
We are literally, like, for some, we are removing our bodies from that. That's some are protesting by removing. I think this happened recently, maybe just yesterday. I guess with the NBA.
Yeah.
Right, and they decided,
boycott.
Right, the boycott, that we're not going to play games. They have removed their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing.
That was the aesthetic.
That's the aesthetic.
Fine. The
basketball. You know what? Boom.
Because that's what we're in control of.
We're in control of that.
Because that's what we produce.
That's exactly
the aesthetic. That's what I'm saying, is that
mm-hmm.
those two things, if we ever want to actually change anything,
mm-hmm.
then we have to define our own function
mm-hmm.
and give rise to our own aesthetic.
Right.
And like I said, don't trick ourselves into believing that at some point we did. Because,
mm-hmm.
yes, it may have. There was a point in our history where we didn't deal with white people.
Right.
Especially like this.
Yes.
There's a majority of our
history. Correct. Yes.
But it has always been dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, it's always been kings, queens,
right.
princes, leaders, and that. Like I said in the war episode, we all know where that comes from.
Right.
We all know where that comes from.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been in service of that function of profiting,
mm-hmm.
of trying to get more out of something than someone else. That's what profit is.
Right.
These inequities that we are dealing with is long-standing.
Right.
And they've
just taken on a different form.
Taken on a different form. So if we want to truly, go about trying to put an end to this, then we have to choose the function that we are going to serve
versus the form.
Mm-hmm. So if the function is combating white supremacy,
mm-hmm.
then that's all you're ever going to get to.
Right.
But I said that with Elijah Muhammad and Nation of Islam. If it's the white devil, if that's your whole faith is combating them, then you're always going to be combating, always going to be responding. You're never going to truly take power. It's like, what's going to happen when you beat the white devil?
Right.
Who's going to be there?
Right.
We know it's going to be gay people. So it's going to be gay people now.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to constantly have to create someone to beat.
Right.
Just like them.
Right.
At
every moment they're constantly
creating something else.
Right.
That's how dictatorships roll.
Mm-hmm.
You have an enemy that is everywhere and pervasive and powerful, yet it is weak and disorganized and poses no real threat. They're both all powerful and complete morons. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can change their shape whichever way you need to maintain your power.
Mm-hmm.
There is a deep state conspiracy that's trying to control everybody, and it's just the liberal media lying.
Right.
Whatever form it needs to serve, whatever form it needs to take for the function to continue.
Right.
And if we want to get rid of that,
mm-hmm.
then we need to define our function.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to be more than just responding, or we need to beat or take down white supremacy.
All right, so how is it that we already know?
Mm-hmm.
How is it that we change?
Well, we have
the function.
Yeah, we have to define what function are we trying to change it to.
Mm-hmm.
And that function, at least to me, what it should be,
mm-hmm.
is about is understanding that this world is about more than you and me. It's about us. And that every decision that we make has to be tempered with the knowledge that other people are going to have to live in the consequences of it.
Mm-hmm.
That we are doing what we are doing so us as the individual, the person as an individual, can find some happiness without taking away from the happiness of
Of
anyone
others. Mm-hmm.
else. You know, like social hierarchies are unavoidable. They are unavoidable.
Mm-hmm.
When you create a society, you're creating a hierarchy.
Correct.
So it's not about trying to avoid kings and queens and peasants and whatnot,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about recognizing the weaknesses and fallacies inside of that
Mm-hmm.
and being able to rectify
Find
them
them.
when they start to go awry.
Mm-hmm.
When a system begins to serve itself instead of serving its people,
People. Mm-hmm.
because that's all the system ever really is. When a king stops serving his people,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or when a people stop serving themselves
Mm-hmm.
and decide to serve a king,
Right.
you know, because no king should ever lead a people into war. At that point, the people should be like, "Nah, we ain't doing that."
Right.
And the king should know that the people could be like, "No, no,"
Right.
or just having the foresight to not even put people in that position
Right. From the very beginning. Right.
from within and without.
No. Right.
That's what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing our weaknesses. Recognizes our limitations, our flaws, and being able to recognize when we are giving in to them or when they are, hindering our decision making.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is about.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the function is. Trying to create something that can work for me and for you and for everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to work for me on an individual level. It needs to work for you on an individual level.
Mm-hmm.
And it also needs to work for everyone
right.
on an individual level.
And when things go awry, or when something happens,
mm-hmm.
right, that you would be able to move to
something else.
You're
not dependent upon an aesthetic.
Right.
The aesthetic is dependent upon you.
And so what has been happening is that we don't want to move. We don't.
Oh, we do want to move.
Well.
But we want to move. We want our cake and eat it too.
Right.
We want to move in a very particular. We want to beat them.
Right.
That's how we want to move.
Right.
You think you're going to get somewhere with that.
Right.
But you're not.
You're not. Because you're going to get so stuck on the beating, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're not going to be.
That's what you're going to be about.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to do your work. I mean, it's the thing that I mentioned about what Toni Morrison,
mm-hmm.
right? She said, that's what racism does. It keeps you from your work. Because it's going to always be something. It's going to always be that thing. It's going to always be something. And so you're never going to be able to do your real work. Look at some of you all say, I've been in the civil rights struggle for 60 years, 50 years, 60 years, 20. I've been doing
mm-hmm.
this for 30 years. See? Do you not see?
Yeah.
Something, you've been doing this for 30 years. You've been doing this for 40 years. And this is where we are.
Still having this conversation.
So what is it that has actually been done?
You're prioritizing form over function.
Right. And so this is what this...
And I think
mm-hmm.
I mentioned this in the war episode
right.
as well, is that are we ready for the pyramids not to be there?
Right.
Are we ready for, the White House to not
mm-hmm.
be there? For
right.
all those
And I remember
things,
you asking me, well, can you be an African without Africa?
Without Africa. That's really
right.
the question.
And I remember answering, I said, well, particularly for us over here, I think the answer is yes, because
you have to be.
You have to be. And we have defined,
that's the form.
Mm-hmm.
The form essentially is to become formless.
Mm-hmm.
So at any point when the form becomes then it can move, it
right.
can change. It is constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
I think I mentioned in one of our more recent episodes that at some point we might have to all leave Earth.
Right.
You know, at
Well, we
some
wouldn't have to
point,
leave Earth if y'all stop with these
yeah,
nuclear and all this
we might
stuff.
need to take all this on Earth and move
Right.
it to Mars or
Right.
Venus or Mercury or whatever.
Well,
We might need to move this whole thing,
mm-hmm.
and in that, you're still going to have to be a human being.
That's right.
You're going to have to take that with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't be defined by what's here
Right.
in the physical world. It can't
Mm-hmm.
be defined by pyramids and pharaohs or presidents and White Houses.
Right.
It can't be
Parliaments,
defined
whatever. Right.
parliaments,
Mm-hmm.
prime ministers and all that bull.
Right.
It needs to be defined by you,
Mm-hmm.
every last one of us.
Mm-hmm.
That's the function.
Right.
The function is to be formless.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're trying to do. But our culture, and I think the culture
Mm-hmm.
we've talked about, culture in itself gives rise to form. That's what culture
Correct.
is.
Is
Culture
right.
is form.
Mm-hmm.
So am I saying that we have to be cultureless? No,
No.
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 It's not about being cultureless. It's about developing a culture of culturelessness.
Mm-hmm.
It's about developing a pattern of recognizing the human pattern
Mm-hmm.
and understanding, like I said, the limitations and the flaws in that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're going to be flaws. We are not the platonic life in
Right.
the universe. We have limitations. Human logic has limitations.
Right.
We have to be able to recognize that, and when they are costing us
Mm-hmm.
actual human lives.
Right.
So in conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to get to the rest later.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go to 4 and
Right.
then head
Come
back
back.
to number
Right.
1.
Mm-hmm.
But in conclusion,
Mm-hmm.
for both our for the second and third definitions of culture here, we can't continue to do things the way that we are doing them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not about getting rid of the way we are doing things, because that in itself is overly simplistic.
Right.
It's not about getting rid of. It's not about avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
Or trying to make impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's about recognizing
Mm-hmm.
and moving in that recognition.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing ever stops. It's about taking what you have and seeing how it moves and understanding how you can move with it to get to the place you're trying to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to choose, well, where are you trying to go?
Right.
What question are you asking?
Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to solve for? Like I say, getting rid of the police won't get rid of oppression. You have to choose what you're going after here.
Right. And we understand.
Because you can get rid of the police and
still have oppression. And we
but
know this
if
already.
you get rid of oppression,
right.
that'll take care of everything else.
Right.
So, yeah.
That's where we are. And I want to thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please, hit us up
Mm-hmm.
and hear us out.
Hear us out. Thank you for listening.